Oftentimes, our childhood trauma comes from authority figures, such as parents, teachers, mentors, and coaches. As young children, we don't understand the difference, so we believe everything that we were told. We also experienced things and didn't know right from wrong. Our subconscious mind is like a sponge, it soaks up every bit of the trauma we've ever experienced. We then carry that trauma into our adulthood, either knowingly or unknowingly. In today's video, I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to begin to heal your childhood trauma. But first, we must talk about why healing our inner child is important, as well as how our childhood trauma has now affected us as adults. Hey, beautiful soul. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Heal with Whitney, your safe space for self development, emotional healing, and inner peace. Here, we dive into journaling, self reflection, and soulful tools to help you reconnect with yourself, release what no longer serves you, and rise into your best self. This space is all about slowing down, doing the inner work, and healing from the inside out, gently, honestly, and at your own pace. If that speaks to your heart, I'd love for you to join me. I post new videos every Wednesday, so come heal with me. You deserve peace, and it all starts right here. So first, I want to introduce you guys to Little Whitney. And Little Whitney is the 5-year-old version of myself that still remains within me. And she's this precious, cute little girl, the most gorgeous little girl. And she has these beautiful brown eyes and this beautiful smile. But she's very shy and broken, and she carries a lot of pain within her. Um, she suffered a lot of abuse mentally, emotionally, and physically, and she's very depressed. And oftentimes, 5-year-old Whitney wishes that she was never born. And now I'm going to explain to you guys why healing your inner child is very important, and then how it takes a toll on us as adults. Okay. So healing our inner child is important because, first of all, your inner child deserves healing. Okay. No child that comes into this world deserves anything less than unconditional love. Granted, we cannot control the things that have happened to us in life, but as adults, it is our responsibility to heal from it. Now, as young children, we believe whatever we were told, and so we didn't know any better. Now, whenever we are born, our subconscious mind is already fully developed, and it is constantly at work, and it soaks up everything that we ever was told, anything we've ever seen or experienced, and it does not understand the difference between right and wrong. We come into this world and we're just pure children with this blank slate, this of a subconscious mind that doesn't know any different. Now, our conscious mind doesn't fully develop until around puberty, and so that is when we can kind of understand the difference between what is right and what is wrong, and begin to make our own choices. Now, by then, the damage is pretty much already done. And so, what happens with our subconscious is that, we think that we're not, oftentimes, we're not aware that our subconscious mind is at work at all times. We also don't realize that, we think that our conscious mind is what's running the show, but really it's our subconscious mind that runs the show at all times. And so, all the trauma that we endure as young children is being soaked up by our subconscious minds, or into our subconscious minds. And so we carry that trauma into our adulthood. And that is why, a lot of people are walking around here angry, mad, and resentful, oftentimes towards family members, or really, and then they take it out on everyone. For example, there's someone who is now um, a part of my family, and this particular person, whenever they first came into my life, I could tell was very broken and had a lot of trauma and issues. And because I had done a lot of inner work within myself, I could see it. So I was able to give this person grace. And I told that person, like, listen, I'm not out to get you. I'm not out to harm you. I can tell that you're hurting, And so I don't think that person had even really acknowledged it at that time. So a lot of times we don't even realize that um, as adults, whenever we are walking around here angry and mad, that it's that inner child in us that is still hurting. And so that is why it's important that we heal our inner child. Another reason is so that we don't carry that on to our children and the next generations that come behind us. So another thing is that our subconscious mind also, like I said, it stores all the trauma in our into our minds, but it also stores trauma into our bodies. So for an example for me is I have a very stiff body. I don't have any rhythm. And I've always had that issue. And it's because I suffered a lot of psychological abuse and a lot of mental abuse that I've always had very low self-esteem. And so that low self-esteem has now stored as trauma in my body and especially in my hips. And so I can't move my body, the way that most people can whenever they're dancing. That's due to built up trauma in my body. So we don't really realize the effect that our childhood trauma has on us as adults. Another thing is, I feel like one of the most important things to realize as adults is how childhood trauma creates limiting beliefs. It creates limiting beliefs as well as confusion. That it causes confusion because, our subconscious mind has been trained to believe one thing, but our conscious mind believes another or wants another. So, for example, our conscious mind has dreams and goals, right? And we know that we are gifted at something. For example, I know that I have a gift of helping others through my voice, but my subconscious mind feels as if I'm not worthy and that I don't bring any value to this world, because that is what I've always been told, is that I'm not valuable. So I've struggled with creating content and putting it out here to the world because of the two conflicting factors. When I know that this is my dream, this is my goal, this is my purpose, but my subconscious mind is constantly replaying in the back of my head saying, you don't bring any value, you have no worth. And so I struggle with it too. Okay. That also is the prime example of a limiting belief. I don't believe as if I'm worthy because my subconscious mind has been trained to believe that it's not. And that limits us in life. And so that is why, to sum it up in a nutshell, that's why it's so important to heal your childhood trauma. You have to retrain your mind by healing your childhood trauma. And so now I'm going to give you guys 5 tips on how to how to begin healing your childhood trauma. Okay, so tip number 1 is to acknowledge that you have childhood trauma in the first place. And most people do. Regardless of how great your childhood was, everyone has some form of childhood trauma. whether it's from your parents or grandparents or some form of authority figure, or if it was from maybe a classmate or a childhood friend. Um, everyone has suffered from some kind of abuse as a child in some form or fashion. The other is to acknowledge that your inner child does exist. Everyone has an inner child within them. Everything is energy, and your inner child is a part of you and always will be a part of you. So it doesn't. The key is to heal your inner child so that your inner child is not always wounded. I know for me, I have been working on healing my inner child for a while now, and I've made a lot of progress. I I've come a long way with that, and but it's been a lot of work, you know. So, and I'm going to teach you guys in tip number 3 to connect with your inner child through meditation by visualizing. And I know for me, what I do is I will close my eyes. And whenever I do that and I connect with little Whitney, I see her sitting in a room, in a dark room by herself, sitting on a bed, crying. She has just experienced some form of abuse, whether it was mental or physical or emotional. She's hurting. And I go into the room and I sit next to her and I talk to her and I'll give her a hug and I'll tell her that I love her. And I will tell her that everything's going to be okay and that she has no idea how strong she's going to be when she grows up and how amazing she's going to be, and that life is not always going to be this hard, and that she is worthy and that she is loved. And I hug her and I give her so much love. And it's very healing. Tip number 4 is through journaling. Journal whenever those childhood trauma, whenever those thoughts come to your mind. Journal, get it out on paper. Get it out of your mind and onto paper. That will help you release that stored energy, that emotion, those emotions within you. It will really help, and that really helps with your healing process. And tip number 5 is to begin to take control of your own life and to change your belief system. Your amazing life is your responsibility. Set boundaries with people who are still triggering your inner child or still poking at your inner child. Set those boundaries. I have someone, well, I had someone in my life who I've had to completely cut out. And that is because that person still triggers my inner child. They still intentionally try to intentionally hurt my inner child. And I made a promise to my inner child through visualization whenever I meet her in the bedroom, and I promised her that I would never let anyone ever hurt her again. And I love my inner child as if I gave birth to her myself, and I will protect her at any and all costs. And so I've had to completely cut that person out of my life. Setting boundaries is very important. You always have to choose yourself first and choose your peace. That's where it begins. You don't owe anyone anything. Whenever it comes to your peace, when it comes to your healing, only you are responsible for that. And oftentimes, people will shame you for it or whatever. The family members will start freaking out, with the exception of that one aunt that's super proud of you for speaking up for yourself, That's usually where the term black sheep comes from. Um, but set boundaries. Protect that inner child at all costs, as if you gave birth to that baby yourself. And that's where it really starts. That really probably should have been tip number one, is setting boundaries. Cut off anyone that you need to, and if you don't feel comfortable completely cutting them off, um, definitely definitely put some distance between the two of you. Also, you can try having that conversation with them, but just know that people who have not healed themselves, they a lot of times they don't really understand. So don't expect an apology. If you get one, that's great, but don't expect one, because then you may only be let down. So that's all that I have for you guys today. If you like this video, hit the like button below and don't forget to subscribe. I will be posting videos just like this every Wednesday, centered around healing your inner wounds. I hope that you guys join me on this healing journey. And until next time, I'll see you later.